Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back. If you are just joining me, I go by the name of Miss Moneypenny, and you're joining me here on the one and only breakfast show you should really be listening to. I'm joined in the studio today by a young man and a very good friend of mine. He goes by the name of Montel Williams. Say hello, Montel.
Hello very much.
I feel like I do that with every guest, and I'm like, say hello now. Okay, we're good. So, just tell the listeners a little bit about the DRI and the reason that we brought you into the studio today.
DRI is an organisation, that we started, amidst all the stuff that's happening around black injustice around the world.
Yeah.
Especially specifically in England, we wanted to look at, what we could do to try and change things within schools, to benefit, black children better, to, create a more diverse and more racial, equal society in the future.
I love that, and I think it's highly commendable as well, because we have an opportunity to change things every single day, and obviously it's been a crazy few months in terms of black injustice and us actually bringing it to light, and there's a lot of people out there that did nothing, and you've built something that we know can grow and be used, and I think a lot of people easily was brushing it all off, saying it's generational, it's this, it's that and the other, and you've said actually, well, that lies with the parents that we don't have control over, but we have control over education. And so it's highly commendable. So what is your background? So you went to uni, was it MMU?
Yeah.
What did you do at MMU?
I was a criminology student at MMU. Went to do a master's in quantitative methods, so
wow,
I do a lot of
I never knew that.
Did you not know that?
No.
Yeah, I do a lot of stuff surrounding data. So like I know, a lot of the statistics. So statistics are, an important part of my life right now when it comes to looking at these kind of things.
That's where your massive stats are coming from, because you're like good with it.
So that's why I just know, a lot of stats, and it's just like, some people say, numbers aren't everything, but numbers do tell a story at the end of the day, what I mean? That's how we know stuff about disproportionality. That's how we know, disproportionate effects within prisons, within stop and search, within schools.
So for anybody out there that's listening that doesn't quite know what disproportionate means, if you say, for example, give us an example of in prisons, what exactly does that mean for the listeners out there that might not know?
So to be disproportionate means you're not in proportion. When they're referring to not in proportion, and more time talking about the population. So I think black and mixed people make up around 4% of the population in England. And people won't really think that. So it's like now in prisons, I think, for example, the youth population, the black youth population is around 24-25% of the prison population. So they are extremely disproportionate to their population in society at the moment, so they're disproportionately affected by the prison system. And we've got loads more to talk on before we play a track, but in terms of the prisons, what do you think that lies down to? Just when it comes to prisons, for example, it just comes to the disproportionate targeting, racial profiling within the black community, within the over focus on youth, and just little things to do with things that we sort of look at within schools as well. The fact that there's just a lot more disadvantage within schools. When you get targeted, it can start from school. People say that school almost mimics prisons in some ways. The fact that you get a break time, the fact that you're within walls all the time. The fact that you're with the same people all day, every day, and that you can get in trouble for doing the wrong thing. It can almost mimic that.
And if you don't like it, you're stuck.
Exactly. And then, if you're getting targeted by teachers within schools, you're disproportionately affected when it comes to things like exclusions. Black people are a lot more likely to be excluded from schools. And I think it was 4 out of 10 teachers in a study found that it was due to a clash of cultures. They thought that's what they thought it was, and I respect for them for speaking up about it, because a lot of teachers probably will be ignorant to the fact that it's probably maybe like a clash of cultures. So purely because of that reason, it can start creating like some sort of like a like an anti-conformity kind of vibe within young children, simply because they're not treated with how they need to be treated.
Starting early. Hello and welcome back. And if you are just joining me, I go by the name of Miss Moneypenny, and you're joining me live in the studio on The Breakfast Show. We're here with Montel Williams. Say hello again.
What's good?
And we're here talking about the DRI, which means the Diversity Reform Initiative, which is something that Montel has founded over the last few months. So who did you find this with? Found? I don't even know the right word to say. Founded?
Like so a close friend of mine, or a couple of close friends of mine, we're just looking at, what was going on, and we just thought, let's actually do something, you know what I mean? Like, we're the driving forces of change, our generation's meant to, go through change. So it was one of my close friends, Aldridge Fury, and then another one of my friends, Abilio Jarabu, friends back in Sheffield. We just sort of got together and we just said, right, let's sort of do this.
I love that. So how do you plan on making the change that you want to, e.g. who are you planning to get involved, etc.? So what does your path look like, if that makes sense?
Yeah, so we're sort of going at this from a different angle, like a lot of organizations are quite local, quite community based.
Yeah.
However, we want to so because of that reason, they struggle to direct all their energy onto systematic and institutional change, which is what we want to look at.
Yeah.
So we're the opposite, we don't really look at local or community change. You want to just go for straight as much systematic institutional change that we can actually do. So what we want to do is we want to get a bunch of organizations together to collaborate together. There's organizations that look at mental health within the disadvantaged groups. There's organizations that look at the financial disadvantages, that look at history, that look at black identity, etc. There's academics, volunteers, and what we're doing and what we have done is we've got in contact with many of them, such as Free Black Uni, the Black Curriculum.
What is Free Black Uni?
Free Black Uni, should look at them on Instagram. I think it's Free Black Uni or the Free Black Uni. What they do is they sort of teach you a lot of stuff around black history, a lot of things that aren't spoke about in schools.
It's crazy that that's even has to be a thing.
That has to be a thing, and the black curriculum's the same. But so that's one of the things that we sort of wanted to do. And kids of colour as well in Manchester, Roxy Ligan, very, very good person, and many. And
have you been well received by all these external organisations, taking you under their wing? They're about it.
It is quite hard. Yeah, we have. We've spoke. I think we must have reached out to about 50 plus people / organisations. Majority of them have sort of got back to us. Yeah, I know. Majority of us, long nights, long days, waking up and going to sleep at late times. But
Love that.
So a lot of them have been on board, say they're happy to get involved. But obviously, a lot of them stuff such as the Free Black Uni, the Black Curriculum, we've only recently held talks with them, despite messaging them back in start of June, because as you could imagine, it's sort of, unfortunately, it's just sort of a trend right now, the whole Black Lives Matter thing for some people. So they've just been busy with a lot of people talking, a lot of people saying they love their work. So, it can be hard for them to respond to a lot.
Because they're getting a lot at the moment.
Yeah, saying this is quite a busy period, which is why, a lot of organisations, some of the big ones, are only just sort of getting back to us now.
At least they're replying.
Involved. Yeah, exactly. I'm grateful. I'm happy.
At least they're replying. We're going to talk about the long-term aims.
Yeah.
We're going to run a track just before that. But how can people get involved if they wanted to get involved right now?
Well, in terms of organisations, what we want to do is we want to formulate a report. Going through my life, university, and my friends going through university, you just know that, when something's just formally written, sometimes it can really make a huge effect. So we want to make a report that sort of outlines the problems in society, gives detailed solutions, which is an important problem, because a lot of people can look at this saying this is a problem, but then it's like, okay,
it's going to be a big report.
What's the solution? Exactly, what's the solution? And then the most important factor, which for me is what effects will this then have on wider society. So it's like, we're implementing these changes into schools now, what effects will this have in the future? And what we want to do is we want to present this to key institutions such as high schools, and then they can turn around and be like, we've now seen this. We've
seen hard research, guys.
Exactly. We can't ignore this. You've actually done our job for us. You've given us a solution. You've told us what we need to do, what we need to implement. Yeah. Now, if they turn a blind eye to it and don't do it, then we put pressure on them, saying, right, this is an institution, this school has been given this tool, and then deciding not to go forward with it.
And then you can
Exactly. But we want to give it to the Department for Education because they're important. But we also realise that a lot of schools have a lot of sort of self-management. They can implement a lot of stuff themselves. So we also want to do some workshops, go to different schools around England, deliver results of our report, talk about it, get people as engaged as possible.
I mean, there's so many things. I feel like you're starting a tree and there's so many branches and leaves that can grow off it. And even when I was in school, we used to have people come around and give talks and things that still stay with you now. And the second that you can get that moving would be amazing. But I'm really looking forward to especially looking at the report.
Yeah, definitely.
We're going to run a track and then we're going to close up things with Montel, talk a little bit more about DRI and how you guys can all get involved. Up next, we've got Unchill, Wale and Jeremiah. Hello and welcome back. You're listening to Miss Moneypenny live on The Breakfast Show, and I'm in the studio here with Montel Williams talking about the Diversity Reform Initiative. Welcome back.
Good to be back, yeah.
I don't think me and you will ever run out of conversation when it comes to this, I'm telling you.
Literally.
So just to sum up a little bit about what we've been talking about, we did ask earlier, like, how do you want people to get involved? But in terms of people that might have data that could help you, what's your site and how can they get in contact?
So you can, for starters, follow us on our socials, our Instagram, DRI_UK on Instagram, DRI_official UK on Twitter, and our website, driuk.org.
Great website.
You can, you can get involved. If you're a member of the public who has experiences in regards to these things within schools, whether you're specifically, secondary school students, if you have experiences.
It'd be good to have it from that perspective of someone in the school now as well.
Yeah, and we want to carry out a few studies where we actually interview, high school students and teachers as well, where we can ask them questions surrounding sort of our aims and stuff, and about how they can help. And organisations that are profound in these type of fields, do come forward with the data and experiences and expertise that you have. Because like I said, we're relatively new. Well, our success and our progression within this organisation will come from deriving that from different organisations who have been doing these things for a long time.
I think for me as well, a very interesting perspective would be from teachers.
Yeah, definitely.
Like you're going to be anonymous in this interview, but we want to know real.
Yeah, exactly.
So to speak, it'd be really interesting to see that teacher's perspective. So long-term aims for DRI, hit me.
Right, so when it comes to aims, there's quite a lot. This is where our organisation really sort of jetted off from. You see, we saw a lot on social media about a lot of people focusing on the curriculum when it comes to the history curriculum. We thought, it's a good thing to start, definitely. A lot of people are focusing on that, but we thought a lot of people focus on that too much to the point where they might make that change and then everyone becomes complacent with that change, and then we're going to find ourselves in the same position again years later.
Totally, yeah.
Because, and we realised there's a lot more that needed to be done, such as, representation in staff, the fact that 97% of male head teachers are white, 96% of female head teachers are also white, and just disproportionality within normal members of staff, specifically disciplinary and pastoral staff.
From the top,
This important members of staff, and also things you want to tackle, racial bullying, and some of the ones that we think are some of the most important are things like tackling mental health within black students. Black people are disproportionately affected. I hope you remembered that word, but disproportionately affected when it comes to negative aspects of mental health. We're a lot more likely to experience things like trauma, loss of identity and all these type of things, and this can really influence how we behave, how we understand the world, and tackling this at a young age is very important. Another thing we want to look at is when it comes to the finance side of things. 65% of black households actually have zero savings.
Wow.
That's what I mean.
You are a facts man.
Compared with I think it's about 35% of white households. So when you don't have that knowledge as an adult, it's hard to pass that on to your next of kin, to your children, to that knowledge of mortgages, of how to save, how to invest,
credit,
and credit exactly, and it just becomes a cycle of how we're continuously disadvantaged within the financial field. And if you can tackle that from a young age, give them that level of education, it can give them more of an advantage and start to break down them barriers when they get older.
Because if you're not learning that from your family, then at least we can input into an education system, so we're looking after everybody.
Definitely.
Then it's optional.
Exactly, that's what I mean.
You know?
So when you do understand that, as a child, you start understanding that you're like, oh wow, so when I do get my first check, when I get my first job, I'll maybe spend it a bit differently. Maybe now I'll stop focusing a bit less on material. Maybe now I'll stop thinking, oh, I've got money, I don't really know what to do with it, so let me just splash it on silly things.
And things like at 18, I need to get a credit card to build my credit rating, because not having a credit card, I won't get a credit rating.
Exactly,
and
you know what I mean? It's
small things,
literally, and it's a shame that's not, within people's minds at the moment, within, black children's mind at the moment, so. Soon come.
But
That's what we want. And
love that.
Another one, we're focusing on is we wanted to import, although this is in schools already, we wanted to import some form of social science at a slightly younger age, because we feel like understanding social science is as important as normal science right now, because it's this, sociology, for example, study of society. When you understand sociology, society, you understand how black people are disproportionately affected, how how we're looked at in the media, how other people view you, how you're always the point of problem.
Like the differentiation of headlines is really simple.
Exactly, and when you can
and
understand
young kids can handle that.
Yeah.
If you go, read these 2 headlines, tell me the difference.
Exactly.
Young 5-6-year-olds are ready to see the difference.
Exactly.
It doesn't take a teenager to understand. So I'm with you. It can start younger for sure.
Even my sister, she's quite educated. She's 30 now. She understands these things, and I know that doing this from a younger age now, even little aspects of psychology, sociology, little bits of politics, even maybe at the ages of year 9, year 10, etc. Not just making it have to be a GCSE option, because if you're not interested in that, that means you're missing out on this understanding of society, the study of society, the society that you're about to go into, about to commit your life to.
I think as well, starting it early also gives people more actually, now I know that that's wrong, so now I'm going to stick up for myself a little bit more. Teaching them certain aspects. No, that's not okay. So as a kid, it's instilled in them from earlier, so that you're like, I'm actually not going to tolerate this.
Literally, that's what I mean.
And so finally, Montel, how can people donate?
So when it comes to donating, you can donate on our website. What our donations go to, because we're not community or locally based, it does go towards us getting the equipment and the resources we need when we're doing workshops. Stuff like a lot of printing costs, a lot of resource costs, leaflets, etc. Also, we want to hold workshops. We eventually want to hold when coronavirus lets us.
We don't say the C word on the breakfast show, but it's okay.
When then passes or dies down, we want to have almost like a group gathering kind of thing, of all these organisations, professionals that we talk to on the phone, bring them all together, because you'll be surprised about how many organisations. I was talking to the Black Curriculum, asked if they've spoke to, ever done any work with the Free Black Uni, and they said they haven't yet. They've spoke on the phone, but they've actually done any work together. They're in similar parts of the country. I think they're both in London, and they haven't worked together. So if they work with us, it'll be the first time they've worked together. So to be able to bring all those people together, it would really help them, and see the vision. It will just it'll create something that we believe hasn't been adequately done before.
Yeah. Any types of events, collective you need help with, holler.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Let me know. Holler. Because I know quite a few venues in Manchester, and there's actually a place that I think would be really good for that type of setting as well. Yeah. It's like a nice little secret conference hall that nobody knows about. Yeah, that's what we need. Any support, obviously. I'm here anyway. We've been friends for a very long time. Literally. Final question. This is a curveball because you didn't know it was coming.
Oh, damn.
Let's go. A perfect school, what does that look like to Montel?
Ooh, that's a good one. A perfect school comes with teachers who are more diverse, are adequately teacher trained in diversity, so they understand the differences between different students, ones that have sort of on-site maybe mental health or psychologists on site that students can speak to, ones that do focus on things like social science at younger age, that do involve things that focus on Black identity more, ones that involve more harsh punishment for
like
racial bullying.
Open-minded.
Just a very open-minded school. One that we can start to divide that sense of prison-like nature and become to a place where you can be free. You can express yourself. You can understand yourself, understand your culture, understand where you come from, understand why it's important, understand why you're not inferior to somebody else. At the end of the day. And so that's what it looked like to me, really.
All that good stuff.
Literally, that's what it needs to be.
So, just to catch you all up as well, if you do want to give them a follow on socials, on Instagram and Twitter, it's DRI_UK. The website is driuk.org. I think all the links are on the Instagram, so if you start there, you probably won't go wrong. DRI_UK.
Yeah.
And thanks so much, Montel, for coming in the studio. He came all the way from Sheffield, guys.
All the way from Sheffield, yeah.
And he's been working, so I'm really, really proud of him. Up next, we're going to kick off our old school power hour, which is actually going to be 18 minutes. But you know the vibes. You're here on The Breakfast Show with Miss Moneypenny. Let's go.